About 5,000 years ago, these beds were worth something. In Western Sahara, they were used for trading and as a form of currency. Now, pretty much worthless. They just had no intrinsic value, very much like our paper currency today. These beds are actually a good reflection of that. There's still a bit of sand, of Sahara desert sand in them. Guys, yes, this is Fernando doing another video for the Modern Survivalist. Now, Romans did things a little bit different. They had the denarius, which is this coin that you see here, which had an actual precious metal content to it. This is a Roman denarius. Was introduced in the year 211 before Christ, 6.8 grams, about half of that in the beginning, about half of that weight being pure silver. The denarius was pretty much the pay per day that a person got working in those times during the Roman Empire. The average field worker or the average Roman soldier would get paid 1 denarius per day, one of these little pieces per day. Historians consider that it is the equivalent of $20 in bread compared to modern times. Now, the silver content of the denarius is 1/10 of a troy ounce, about 3.1 grains. About half of the metal half of the content is silver. 1/10 of a troy ounce. Troy ounce being 1 ounce of pure silver, such as this American Silver Eagle. Now, if you look at today's minimum wage in comparison, the minimum wage that you have going per day is $58 being made each day. Now, that compared with today's price of silver, 1 ounce of silver is worth 29 bucks as of today. So you could basically say that the minimum wage per day as of right now is 2 of these. The average minimum wage worker is going to be getting 2 of these per day, while in the times of the Roman Empire, they were getting 3 of these per month. Just 1 of these per day. It's interesting that silver basically has never been as cheap as it is now. If we look at gold, we see that 1 ounce of gold as of right now is worth $1,588. Now, back in the day, in times of the Roman Empire, 1 gold aureus was worth 25 denarius. The gold aureus was basically this same coin, but made of pure gold, 99% gold, same size of a coin. A little bit heavier because it's made of gold. It used to weigh between 8 and 7.3 grains. But, same size of coin made of gold, worth 25 denarius. And if we keep in mind that the metal content, the precious metal content is half of that, basically you could say that 1 unit of gold got you 10 units of silver, which is really not that bad. Especially if you look at today's value, you see that today 1 ounce of gold buys you 53 ounces of silver. Now, that's kind of strange because silver is not 53 times cheaper to mine than gold, and historically it certainly wasn't worth that different either. Silver, seeing this, is 5 times cheaper today compared to gold than it used to be. One final interesting thing about the Roman Empire and their use of silver is that the Romans were pretty much the Americans of their time. They were a developing power that were always innovating, and they relied a lot on their military power to expand and become more powerful. Now, they didn't have a fiat currency like paper money, but instead of printing more money, what they did was reduce the amount of silver in the denarius. It started having half of it being precious metal, half of it being silver. As time went by, they reduced the quantity of silver in the denarius little by little. That's how by the year 300, 1 aureus was worth 833 denarius. by the year 324, when Arius was worth 4,350 denarius, and closer to the end of the Roman Empire by the year 350 C, one solidus, that it was 4.5 grains of gold, which is half the gold of the old Arius, was worth 4,600,000 denarius. There was no silver left in the denarius closer to the end of the Roman Empire. It's interesting as well because the ones closer to the beginning, the denarius that had more silver content, preserved themselves better, while as time went by and the content of silver got reduced, they start looking worse. They are more oxidized, more rusted, and they basically are just a little piece of rusted metal. By the end of the Roman Empire, the coin having no silver in it was just a chunk of rusty metal, worthless. And you see it reflected when it's compared to the solidus made of gold. So folks, that's basically it. I think it's an interesting analogy to see how fiat currency, things that have no intrinsic value, lose its value eventually, and how back in the day they didn't print money as they do now, making it more and more worthless. They just reduced the actual precious metal content of it. And finally, how silver has always been of value and still is. Thousands of years go by and 1 ounce of silver still buys you stuff. And it's been like that for thousands of years, and it's gonna be like that for a few thousand more. And we see that it's never been as cheap as it is now. I'm not saying to just go running and put everything you have in silver, of course, but just keep it in mind, especially during hard economic times, especially when there's times of uncertainty, or even when economies collapse. People look at precious metals as a form of shelter. So at least some of your savings, you should at least have some of this stuff in your preparations. Folks, as always, just more food for thought. Consider subscribing because there's more of this stuff coming up. Have a great day. Take care. See you in our next video.